I'm Kristen Heller. I'm the Managing Director of Milwaukee Film.
I'm Petey Balestrieri. I'm the Cinema Operations Director at Milwaukee Film.
About 15, 18 years ago, I was in business school. So I was working on my MBA. I thought I wanted to go into film production. And so I had worked on sets at that point for a lot of smaller indie productions. But I felt that going to film festivals would be a great way to network. So the way that I did that was while I was still in business school, I went and volunteered at Sundance. It was such an emotional experience that I kind of had a real pivotal moment where I was like, no, actually, I think this is what I want to do. I think this moment where people are in a theater watching a movie together and there's this magic and energy in the room, I think that's what I want to do. So that kind of changed things for me.
Cool. Mine is less glamorous. I just have had, growing up in this neighborhood and River West, my Nana, my parents, my aunts and uncles have bringing me to the Downer and the Oriental Theater since I was a little scamp in the late 70s, and continued on into the 80s on my own, coming here by myself quite a bit. It was my happy, safe place, and I'm not a film maker or a film scholar. I just love going to the theater, and I love these two theaters especially, and so here I am.
We show a lot of documentaries at the film festival and in our theaters, and I think those are the ones that, for me, give me new perspective. One that I can pull from recently was our opening night film last year was the film Sally, which is about Sally Ride. And it was so fascinating to sort of see this intimate personal side of this person that I had known of growing up, but also just to have eyes into the NASA program at that time, because you think of all these different space flights and these astronauts that you had known throughout your childhood and seen on the TV, and just the fact that they all lived together and knew each other. And just seeing that archival footage was so fascinating that, I don't know, that was a very interesting one for me. So I think I love documentary films, and that's one that I think sticks out to me recently.
Going to the theater, just being a magical, it's endless. Going to see movies a lot as a kid in my formative years. Finding my way into skateboarding in Milwaukee and skate shops, Mr. Wilson's, Screaming Tuna, Phase 2 and Sky High and Cream City. I think that was kind of an early adopter of documentary or even social media, where you had kids all over the world filming themselves constantly and then sharing it with each other, sharing it on VHS tapes, so you knew what kids in other countries and other cities were listening to and how they were dressing and how they were talking. And it was totally addictive to me. And as soon as I could get my hands on VHS tapes and VCRs and come into the theaters, it was off to the races. It was just, my brain was forever altered and I couldn't resist.
I feel like this question is to be really looking back, but I think one that happened for us recently was we got to have a special screening of the movie Song Sung Blue, which is a Milwaukee-based story about Mike and Claire Sortina, and they were, and just having Hugh Jackman here and having Claire, who's featured in the film, in the audience. And just the fact that we got to be part of that and Focus Features let us be part of that was really special to us, and I'll always remember the feeling in that room.
Yeah. Unforgettable. Very cool. We have to do that again sometime.
Yeah.
For me, there's a bunch. There's many, many that I could think of. For today, I'm going to say one of my favorite all-time films, Lasse Hallström's My Life as a Dog, which my mom took me to. And she never, I think, I was not super precocious, but she brought me to a lot of beautiful independent films, art films, European films, but that film specifically really spun my head around. I really think it was like showing me the broader world, the world of adolescence and of adults, in a way that I could tell very clearly that my mom thought of me as a person and not as like a little kid, that she was taking me to something that was special to her because she thought it would be a special experience. And if you've ever seen My Life as a Dog, it is about the formative experiences of a young boy becoming a young man and kind of experiencing the trials and tribulations and joys and sorrows of the world in a really beautiful way. And I will remember that for the rest of my life forever.
I think the visual part of it is important because I mean, like books do this too, where you can see yourself in a character. But I think movies sort of like help us portray that, like not to sort of pull film and TV apart from each other, but like seeing it on the big screen and being in a shared room, just having, you know, like when an audience gasps when something happens, or like the shock of something, or like when you see like emotions run through a character. I think just that human element to it is really special.
Yeah, it's everything. Absolutely. It's primordial and it's alchemical. I think someone reminded me recently, might have been my son, that cinema doesn't happen on the screen. Cinema happens in your brain, that it's this spell that we're just showing static images on the screen. And actually the movement of film and the audio of film is happening inside of you. It's this illusion. It's this magic that's taking place. And right, I don't think any language, let alone the English language, is capable of portraying human experience. But there's something about an eyebrow or the twitch of an eyelid or a cheek or a smile, the way that Kristen was saying, that just instantly locks you in on a really deep emotional level that you can't get with anything else. And as beautiful and wonderful as poetry is, as close as it comes, there's something about images moving at 24 frames a second with audio that just is a main line. It is a direct link into all of our collective DNA and experience, and it's absolutely transportive and in a communal way. If you're in a room of strangers and you're all going through the same thing, and I saw Hamnet in this theater twice, and I think I cried harder the second time. Sorry to be an old softie. I know not everybody had that experience or that reaction, and there were absolute total strangers stopping me on the way out. Hey, what did you think of that? Hey, how did you feel about that? How did that make you feel? I met a man on the way out, and we had a great conversation and kept in touch afterwards. We exchanged information, and it's just it's a beautiful communal thing that I think people are going, especially in this day and age, are even it's becoming more precious. We can see some of those connections being tested in the age of social media and in the age of isolation and in the coming out of the quarantine. And if you have children, we both have children, and you see the magic of it is even more relevant and on display these days.
I think it kind of creates, you know, like the shared space where you've had a shared experience, and I think that's a very powerful moment. And I think we see it all the time in our lobbies afterwards.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely, I mean, the mission of Milwaukee Film, to engage and educate through film and to try to bring different groups of people together through shared stories. And storytelling, I think, for millennia has been a way of bridging the gap between human beings. And if I can experience your life through your story, then it brings me closer to your experience, and it creates empathy within me for you. And I think Milwaukee specifically is a city with such harsh, sometimes invisible, but incredibly harsh borders. And I think Milwaukee is a city that needs film and film in person and more theaters, more than a lot of other cities, because it's a way for people who live in the same city but might live in completely different worlds and completely different universes and are struggling with totally different problems and different levels of severity there, that we can all get together. And we've both seen it happen over the last 15 plus years in these theaters, where you walk out of a theater and people who grew up under very different circumstances are all of a sudden unified in cause and in feeling, and it's a really wonderful thing to watch.
And I think it can also be a catalyst. You know, like it can be, a catalyst for, something to anger you and wanting change. It could also be a catalyst for inspiring you and like bringing that creative energy. I think, whenever anything, whether it's music or TV or film, like whenever something makes you feel, I think that's where you feel compelled and like it sort of drives you forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The idea that a film festival is basically it's a platform. It's a platform that unites artists and audiences, and it gives like sort of like that moment of the artist, whether they're in person or not, sharing and telling their story. And we as someone that has worked with a lot of filmmakers over the years, you know how much work has gone into that, whether it's been a year, 10 years, whatever it took to make that story, and for them to have that moment where audiences get to experience it and get to experience it in crowded spaces where it's a shared experience. And also for our audiences to see like new voices and to see things that, are like maybe they can, inspire them, anger them, get them to see things in a new way, like just getting to see a variety of different stories. So we like sort of creating the space where those experiences can happen.
Yeah, I'm not messing with that one. Kristen, as a festival veteran, I'm so lucky to work with her as a mentor and a boss and a colleague and a friend. And I'm very proud to be like a festival layperson. And I really try to approach my job as someone who is just coming to the festival or likes to go to the movies with people that they love and care about. And it's absolutely that. And from an event standpoint, the idea that you can set the stage and let someone come in, whether they're from another country or from another city or from another neighborhood, and present a work that they've been passionate about and have dedicated years of their life to, and watch it light up a room and watch it light up everyone's eyes and hearts. It's a really very, very special thing, and I'm very privileged to be a part of it.
I think also like the world in some ways like has allowed for people to become isolating.
Yeah.
So it's funny when like we hear so many stories about people that have met each other at the film festival. Like we've had filmmakers who have come and now have kids because they met each other here. We've had volunteers who are married who met each other here. And I think, like in some ways it's also just like a fun way to sort of meet cool mutual people.
For sure.
Under one roof.
Yeah, they're not all heavy docs. The word festival should figure very prominently in this. It's a festival. It's a party. It's 2 weeks long. It takes a lot of work, and it takes 50 weeks out of the year to plan. But at that point, it's a festival. It's a party. We want people to wake up excited, to go do something before the movies, to go see a couple movies, go do something fun after the movies. It's a marathon, but it's really rewarding, and we want it to be something that people look forward to all year and think of as a really fun, festive, even in a city like Milwaukee, where there are so many cool things going on, not just in the summer, but all year long, that we figure so prominently in people's hearts and minds as something that they look forward to all year, amongst all the other fun things to do in the city, is really cool because it's a party.
Filmmakers are, when they come to the film festival, are in different parts of their journeys. Some of them have been on the circuit, and this is them, like in some ways they get to see Milwaukee and get to see Milwaukee audiences, and for them it's like that little bit of discovery. We also have a lot of filmmakers, especially locally, who premiere here. And so for them, like their families are in the audience, their friends are in the audience, their crews in the audience. And so like there can be a lot of different emotions, but like for them, it's often a filmmaker won't stay and watch their film. A few just like to sort of sit in the back and just sort of hear how the audience reacts to that. It's really interesting to sort of be with them in the room, especially if it's the first time an audience is watching their film. Like you don't know when people are gonna laugh. You know when your friends and family have laughed because they've seen your film. Like those can be really special for a filmmaker. So we try to create those moments. And also just to sort of, we do everything we can to fill the houses, to like have them have really fun, full, active crowds, because that is, like for a filmmaker to walk into a house and see a packed house, that's a very powerful moment for them, that all these people showed up and they showed up for your film. So that's one thing that we always try to make happen for them.
Yeah, I would say I've seen it on so many different levels. We have our Dialogues documentary festival in the fall, and there was a young man, a really famous, legendary breakdancer from the Bay Area named Wicket, and he came, and with the producer and the director and Ty, our programmer, they did a Q&A, and it was so wonderful to watch. I mean, he was distilling his entire life experience as this really cool queer breakdancer from the Bay Area who was now in Milwaukee. But there was just so much fun. You could see the culmination of all of this work on all of their faces, and the Q&A that Ty led in the audience was this brilliant thing. And you could just see them all come alive, and the story came alive afterwards in the Q&A. You got to see this beautiful film, but then to have them all here in front of you to share their personal lived experience. And from that to like, Ethan Hawke came to share he and his daughter's film, Wildcat. And he was here and he said, oh, you know, I've never gotten to see this film with an audience. He came pretty soon after it was made, said out loud as he was walking in, now I realize this is where I was supposed to see it for the first time. I was supposed to see it here in this theater with this crowd for the first time, to watch this beautiful project that his daughter had brought him, that he ended up directing and editing with a local editor, Barry Polterman. And so like on all these different levels, it becomes this shared thing, and it's brilliant. And like I said, it's alchemical. It's not something you can put your finger on. It's this feeling that we're all just kind of like full of this wonderful energy. It's just kind of this through line of communal kind of connection. It's great.
Like, I think the audience brings the character out. You know, there's during the festival, we show a lot of movies in our Cine Elegante program, which are horror genre, all sorts of films. And like, you know, like when you get like a really fun film and there's like that cat caller in the audience, or like the people that like are a bit of like, you know, startle easily and make a lot of sounds. For me, the audience can really charge a film. I mean, even Hamnet, like even like emotionally like difficult, hard movies, sometimes like hearing like someone sniffle next to me, like it's like that gives me permission to like be like that I'm like, okay, now I'm losing it. When you have an audience, like it drives the emotion in the room and it helps like drive that feeling. You know, it is, and it's so different from watching a movie at home where like you lose that connection, and like, you know, sometimes you'll see something at home and you're like, how should I feel about this? But having a room react with you, I think, can be a very powerful experience.
Agreed. They're supporting each other. They're moving together like a flock, laughing together, crying together, screaming together. That would be me specifically, scaring everybody because I'm screaming at every jump scare. But
I have an audible gasp. That's
yeah, you know, all that kind of stuff. There'd be no reason to do it in a vacuum. Yeah. I don't think any artist necessarily is producing things just to keep to themselves. I think in almost every, it's I want to show you this, yeah. Right? And so we're trying to provide that platform on a really broad spectrum of allowing filmmakers and performers and producers and everybody can connect with that audience. And I think, you know, even more so post-quarantine, we're seeing that people don't want to watch everything on their phones. People don't want to watch everything on laptops. The younger generation, our children's generation, I'm older than you, but my children's generation, they make a big point of going out to see stuff, and that it's this shared experience. Hey, I traveled to go see this film. I traveled to go see this on 70 millimeter. I traveled to go see this on 35 millimeter. You know, people come from hundreds of miles away to see our programming, and it's really satisfying and exciting to think that somebody booked a hotel or took time off of work to come from another city to come to the Oriental or the Downer or to one of our festivals to spend time with us and spend time with the films that our programmers are presenting to them. It's really magical.
You know, like so much comes down to distribution, that they'll put the film out to the country, and that sometimes that's online on Netflix. If a film looks interesting to you, you should come out its opening weekend, because those are the numbers that they look at. That first Friday through Sunday is so important to a filmmaker. That gives an indicator of like how successful this film is, not to make, you know, it all about money, but like when you are an artist that is trying to get people to invest in you, whether it's in our theaters or on Netflix, like right when it comes out, that is so important to independent voices, because that shows that there is an audience for these voices, and that, you know, we should continue to make them, so that you don't just, not to knock, you know, reboots and, you know, big franchises, like those are fun too, but you need both.
Professionals like Kristen and our programmers who understand the nuance and the distribution and the way that all works is so murky, and even now it's always being rewritten. And I think with some of the media conglomerates and things, it's only going to get more confusing to folks. But I think on some level right now, we understand if you love an artist, you got to go see them in concert. That's how they survive. If you love a filmmaker, you have to go that opening weekend. Like you said, if you love Greta Gerwig, you got to go see Little Women on 35 millimeter if you can, the opening weekend. And you have to take friends, because that impacts their ability to live as an artist and their ability to make their next film. And I think even people like myself who just like going to the movies are becoming more aware of those, the distribution. Yeah, I always quote Sofia Coppola, who I love, and she said, "There's no such thing as independent film. It's just too big. It's just too big of a thing. I make personal films." So I really think that at Milwaukee Film, we really are dedicated. Our programmers, our film festival, the Dialogues Documentary Film Festival, are really dedicated to showing personal films. And whether that's made in a big budget, Sinners, One Battle After Another, to the smallest micro budget film, personal films are what are really resonating with people these days. So I try to, I stick to that. If something feels personal and you can see someone's signature and someone's heart in it, that's what we're looking for.
I think the other thing independent voices need are voices that can sort of extend them as well. You know, like a lot of big films have big budgets for advertising and to be able to like put their ads in front of you on social media. If you saw a film that you really liked or you're really excited for something, share that. You know, like so much of social media is about tearing each other down. But if something's important to you, like put it out there, share it out there, because that helps that artist find their audience, have a wider reach, even if they can't necessarily have the dollars to push it out themselves. I think you can see in moments in world politics, in the news, like when it feels like there's only one voice driving the narrative, when you need many voices driving the narrative. If independent film or movie theaters go away tomorrow, I think you lose some of the conversation, some of the audience in the world of artistic film. And so I think if those things are important to people, these are the things that need support.
On a personal level, I would just lose something that I love very dearly. And we've seen even in Milwaukee, major chains shut, several theaters just in the last 12 to 18 months have shut down. You're getting always getting a smaller choice of what you can see in a theater. I think that, yeah, exactly. I'm just going to parrot exactly what Kristen says. You lose a diversity of voices. You think of all the films in the last 100 years that have really shifted the conversation or shifted the needle in terms of where our society is headed, and absolutely have changed people's lives. And you lose that opportunity. You lose the opportunity to connect with people on this really beautiful level. And I guess we won't. The main threat for me is that we won't know what we've lost because it won't be there.
Yeah.
We'll never have the opportunity to give someone the platform. Film production and distribution and exhibition is becoming so exorbitantly expensive and complicated. The more we can do to say local cinema, Cream City cinema, when you come to see Cream, that all those films were made in Milwaukee, employed people in Milwaukee. That it's just it's a universal thing that will go away if we're not vigilant. And I think that this generation and folks right now understand we're at a bit of a crossroads. The letterbox generation, I call them, people who are really wearing their hearts on their sleeves in terms of my life is really defined and affected by the things that I have the opportunity and the privilege to go see in the theater. And as much as we can extend that privilege out into our community, we're going to try and do it for as long as we can.
I mean, well, it's very special to have something that's that old. Like this theater used to actually be one house. Like it was duplexed 30-ish years ago.
Yeah, 1980.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 1990.
Yeah, somewhere in that. But it's changed along the ways. But I think one thing that makes this theater very special is you have so many generations where this has been their neighborhood theater. And I did not grow up around here, but it reminds me of the neighborhood theater I went to when I was younger. And so I think for us, that's the history. It's very cool to have something this old and have the oldest operating theater. But at the same time, it's really just the fact that, like, we have some people that are in the neighborhood that take their kids here because they went here as a kid. So I think for me, it's that, the fact that you get to pass it on, and the fact that, like, you get to come here for that same experience that you had with your parents growing up.
Exactly. Pardon me, I'm going to turn this off. Especially on Downer Avenue, I think we are like protecting and holding on to something that doesn't exist much anymore. And here we have a 2-block stretch, which I'm hoping was very common in the world prior to this, but a locally owned grocery store, a locally owned baker, a locally owned liquor store, a locally owned coffee roaster, a locally owned bookseller, a locally owned movie theater, all within a 2-block stretch. It's something that I think was everywhere, 40 or 50 years ago, but just absolutely does not exist anymore. And now it seems like, the demographic, there's clearly, this is an upper class neighborhood, but growing up in Milwaukee, it felt like Downer Avenue felt like a place that everyone could go. It was inclusive. I think of all the different businesses on Downer that have been over the years. There was a comic shop, a really cool restaurant, the Coffee Trader, the Collector's Edge, a ice cream shop, Licks. There was a candy store. There was a big field where the parking lot is across the street where you could play. And it just felt like the way it should be. It felt like every neighborhood should have these things, these kind of these pillars that artistically and allowed people to work in their neighborhood and allowed people to live in their neighborhood, and with these beautiful creative artistic elements that were part of everyday life, that they weren't these exclusive things that only certain people get to go to see movies, and that certain people are priced out, whether by the location of where they live or whether by the cost of it, that, everybody could pay a nickel and go watch 2 or 3 movies on the weekend. And it's just a really special thing that we're trying to hold on to and we're trying to be stewards of. And we are coming into this at the last 15 or 20 years of this 100-year stretch, both here and at the Oriental. So we're very conscious of that and very conscious of what a privilege it is to be part of that continuum, and what a big deal it is.
And I love the personal aspect of it. Like, we also operate the Oriental Theater, and that is a movie palace that is very much a destination that people will come from all over to go see. This theater, so it feels like it belongs to the neighborhood. Like, some people see this their theater, and I think I like the neighborhood pride around this theater is such a special thing to us too.
Absolutely.
Like, it was after like the pandemic and trying to reopen and all that. Like, I think it's what, like, you touched on this earlier, Petey, where it's like you don't know you're losing something sometimes until it's gone. And so I think when this theater closed its doors, the people that had operated this theater before that, like, were like the 2 theater managers, like Liz and Rashad, were like known, loved, and like to realize that something like that couldn't go away. I think we had so many people reaching out to us at Milwaukee Film, urging us to take over, to step up, knowing that this could happen, knowing this had happened. There was a real rallying cry of people wanting to save this theater. We did occasionally get the occasional person walking by saying that they wish it had turned into a rock climbing gym. That was fun. But for the most part, once we started being in here and cleaning and really getting into things, we had so many people knock on the door and just thanking us for being here, thanking us for whatever we were willing to put into the place, just excited that it was going to come back. Because, when a movie theater closes, there's no guarantee that it's ever going to reopen as a movie theater again. You don't know what it's going to turn into. It can very easily be demolished and turn into something else completely. It could be a parking lot. So I think, there was a real resilience of not wanting that to happen, and a lot of voices that did not want that reality to happen.
Agreed. Yeah. Praise be to anybody who is trying to turn a profit exhibiting movies these days. I think more and more, we're a nonprofit. We're in a privileged situation where we really rely on a robust membership. The idea that in the city of Milwaukee, you have over 5,000 people annually paying dues to keep us in business, our donors, our partners, so much generosity involved in what we do. But I think you're seeing more and more even like Alamo Drafthouse, some of the bigger chains locally are really struggling to keep their locations open, to stay open 7 days a week, to show more than one set or one movie in each theater a day. And I think the fact that a lot of folks thought that we already owned the Downer. And, oh, don't you guys own the Oriental? Don't you guys own the Downer? We've been to so many festivals there. We just bought the Downer, a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So it's like the public perception, until you're faced with this really stark reality, like it's gone, it's bulldozed. It's a smoothie place, which love to have smoothies down the street, but not here and not a rock climbing gym. It's just it's something that is tough, and you're seeing more. I think even people who are involved in filmmaking, Cillian Murphy and Kristen Stewart and Quentin Tarantino, are buying small theaters to say this at the street level, at the level where people can come in and see movies. That's really where the rubber hits the road, and that's where cinema as an art form lives, in people coming in together locally to see films on a regular basis. How can we keep it affordable? How can we keep it accessible? How can we offer things that everybody from age 7 to 70 wants to come and see? We have really talented programmers and year-round full-time projectionists and people running the show who have dedicated their entire professional lives to this, to try to figure out this puzzle, this problem that we're faced with. But I have so much hope with what's going on at our friends at the Music Box in Chicago, the things that we plan to do here with our renovations and making this a real hub of 35 millimeter repertory stuff. It's going to be really magical and exciting.
We actually have to do a lot of work to our projection booth to make it happen. Like where our port glass is, we actually have to keystone a lot to see the screen. So we're going to enlarge the booth in both the North House and the South House. Pushing that out, repositioning the port glass, and then we'll be able to bring in 35 full aperture systems based in Chicago is going to donate the 35 millimeter projectors to us. So we already know that we're going to do those. And we love showing film on film. We think it's such an important part of what we do. And right now we can only do that in the main house at the Oriental. So it is part of a big construction project, but no, that is something that we are very much excited about, really ramping up the technical systems here. I think the way a room is, the way you remember a room, like you can remember where you saw certain things and how that experience changed you and how it was impactful for you. And I think, coming here, it's an intimate experience, especially if they come here repeatedly and they get to know our staff. Like it is very much, you're part of something, and you're part of a bit of history in being here. Knowing what we want to do here, we're hoping to raise between $6 to $8 million, and that's both in terms of construction, operating costs, technical systems, and just knowing that once you launch a capital campaign, there's going to be distance in time between when you raise money and when you do the work, and inflation happens in that time. So we know roughly what we want to do, but what it takes is it takes a lot of always be balancing different expectations, trying to make the most of what you can do, how you stretch every single dollar so that you're being conscious of how people have invested in you and you are investing it well. So we're constantly trying to focus on what is the priority. In some ways it's restoring historical fiber and making sure that this building still has a mixture of that 1915 character throughout it. But it's also, our big thing is ultimately it also comes down to what is the audience experience, and that is both bathrooms that are accessible and work for the audience that are coming here, seating that is comfortable to be in for long periods of time while you're watching a film. It doesn't matter how beautiful your theater is, if you're uncomfortable while watching it, it ruins the experience. So we really try to focus on how do we make this experience something that you want to come back to repeatedly and have this be where you come see movies.
And as someone who works for Kristen, I'll say that really going out of our way to take care of people. When I started 10 years ago, very, very small year-round staff. We've now grown to, I'm thinking we're close to 80, trying to make sure those people are being paid a living wage, people that we're developing professionally, that we're giving those people opportunities to go to see how other festivals work, how other theaters work, And that's the reason why people who work at the Milwaukee Film Festival are in demand nationally, internationally. Our projection corps, our programmers, our operations team work at other festivals all over the country and are in demand because we're known for our excellence and for our standards of exhibition and the way that we take care of our audience, the way that we take care of filmmakers. That's how you get things on 35 millimeter and 70 millimeter. You can think in the United States, there might be 10 to 20 maximum prints of a film at any given time on 70 millimeter. The idea that you would send one to Milwaukee, Wisconsin is kind of ridiculous when you think about the population, the potential audience, but they know that it will be exhibited correctly, the care that will be shown to that print, and the audience that we have curated that will come and support that will pay a premium to see it on 70 millimeter or 35 millimeter. That's why we're in the conversation when those things go out on the road and we can snag them and show them to people in Milwaukee who might never have gotten to see it in that way. It speaks to something that's now an 18-year process of growing that fan base and growing growing professionally along with that fan base. It's a really cool thing to watch grow.
What is the cost that is not the money cost? And I think like the big answer to that is like time, an immense amount of time. And that can be time spent on the construction. It can also be time spent on the fundraising. But at the same time, like I think we're a big group of people that are very passionate about what we do and care very, very much about like our each individual areas. So in a way, like it is a big passion project for us that like, you know, we're all very driven towards the same mission and towards the same goal. So when we get to do a construction project, it is a really heavy responsibility because like, you know, you want to do right by everyone that like, you know, that loves this place and then has invested in it. I can tell you from doing the Oriental Theater, like, I mean, we did a lot of that during the pandemic. It was like a vitamin for the soul, like just be able to come together and be like, how do we make this place magical? How do we bring back all these pieces that were lost over time? How do we repair damage that has been done over decades? And just like to sort of see like the impact of all these donors that cared so much about it, people that bought seats and such, being able to sort of see what they contributed, like make something so gorgeous. Like that's really, I feel so privileged that we get to do that work.
Absolutely.
The Oriental Theater, that was a $10 million capital campaign. About $6.25 million of that was actually invested in the theater. Other parts of it went to new projectors and also operating costs and getting started up. The Downer Theater, we are launching a $6 to $8 million capital campaign. And some of that has already started to come forward. The fact that we were able to buy this theater is because we had support from a donor who was willing to help make that happen. When we first took over this theater, we were preparing it for that first festival 2 years ago. We had a projector. The light engine died right before the festival, and we had a donor step up and help us buy a projector then. So we've already had a few key donors step up, be really engaged. And right now we are sort of in the early starts of getting ready to take that campaign more publicly. And with that, like really ironing the scope of what we want to do, which we have a good vision of, but making sure that aligns with what the audience wants as well. So we're getting ready to do that. And then ideally we can actually start doing work and improvements on this place in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, Kristen has a really special vantage point from the inside looking out and access to that experience and that information. For me, as just a festival goer and a member of Milwaukee Film and someone who has been coming to these theaters for almost 50 years, the lesson I learned is that it was worth it. Yeah. And I think that's what the city learned and our donors and our partners learned, is that it was absolutely worth it. If you look at what's been going on at the Oriental in the last 12 to 18 months, I think we've hit a stride that I've never seen before in terms of the Milwaukee Muslim Film Festival, big premieres with Hugh Jackman and Song Sung Blue and Wildcat and Ethan Hawke, and now 2 festivals, a Dialogues Documentary Festival in the fall and the Milwaukee Film Festival in the spring. I don't think that the Downer and the Oriental have ever been as active and ever been as vibrant as they have in the last couple of years. And I think we've just really hit a stride. And I think it's absolutely worth it, which is why you see so much excitement and so much energy around the purchase of the Downer and the rehab of the Downer and the capital campaign, even when everyone's resources are pulled in so many directions and are spread so thin. People are so excited to invest money into this experience because they see what a big economic impact it has on these neighborhoods and how much money it can bring into the city. And the experience is just priceless, and you can't really put a value on it.
And it really helps that we've done this before, like it was, trying to figure out how much we wanted to raise in this campaign. It was very helpful to know exactly how much it costs to put seats in a theater, like what, a sound system might be. Like having done this before, it's funny to think of the Oriental Theater as our trial run of learning how to renovate theaters. And like we have great partners that we work with that let us do gorgeous historic buildings. But I feel like, like having been through those renovations at the Oriental, we just sort of get to feel energized about doing this, like not the nerves, because, we know that we can make this place, like, it's already a beautiful theater and we're just going to take it up a notch. Every historic building has its challenges. For instance, at the Oriental Theater is over a bowling alley. So whenever we had to do things such as like pouring concrete, we had to bring in engineers to sort of figure out what is the weight load that we can pour and like, making sure that you don't end up in the bowling alley. But I also find that fun. There's the problem solving of a project, or sometimes it's also like trying to figure out things that don't feel like they make sense to you. Like on our last project, the seat standards in the balcony have a pharaoh on them, and we didn't know if they were original at first, because why would an Oriental theater have what looks like a very Egyptian seat standard? So we had to like find historic photos, zoom in, blow it up, like put a light on it, and like to like discover that they were the original standards, because there was another Egyptian theater in town and they probably got those standards at a discount. I like trying to figure out, when was something done? Is this original? Like, is this do we want this to continue to be part of the fiber? Like, there's a lot that goes into a project that you don't get to figure out ahead of time, that you figure out as you go through it. And like, that's a big part of like getting the right people around the table so that you have like the right minds working through it with you. So it is a true, intense labor of love to renovate a historic venue. There are so many weird problems, discoveries, like, setbacks that happen along the way. And you try to make sure that like, as you do it, you are, you're controlling, that you have contingency and that you're controlling budgets, and that, you don't fall short in areas that you really can't. It's sort of like navigating all that as you go through it. And then, coming out the other side of being like, this was the vision all along.
Yeah. Right.
So.
I think anybody who's ever done like a small plumbing project at their house understands that until you get into it, until you crack that wall open, you really have no idea what you're going to find. And that's compounded by properties, these beautiful buildings that are historic landmarks and that are over 100 years old. You really have no idea what is going on until you get into it. It's a gamble. It's an absolute gamble. It's a leap of faith on the part of the donors and the people who work here and the audience that, hey, are we absolutely sure that once a year some big cultural landmark like Barbie or Sinners is going to come out and just drive everybody into the theaters and drive everybody to come and see this film multiple times? And it's like we're all betting on it because we love it and we live in it. And I think a lot of the people in my life are too, that, that we're investing our lives and our livelihoods into this thing. And it takes so many things to keep it going. And here we are, 100 plus years into this art form and into these spaces, and we're still going strong, and I'm excited as ever.
We were a 15-day festival that took over a 365-day operation. I say it as if we've already arrived at the destination. Movie theaters and film festivals have different film terms in terms of like how long you can show something, whether or not you have to have a clean run of it. There's so many like rules and nuances to it. Even us like understanding like and having like different permits for, food, beverage. We figured out a structure, we figured out something that works. And then I feel like every day we figure out how we continuously do it better.
Yeah.
And how we continuously listen to our team that is, experiencing it on different ends, whether it's the front of house, whether it's programming. just trying to keep conversations open so that we can always be moving, so that we are working together better, doing things better, hearing our audience more for things that need to be improved and changed. When you're a film festival, like there's certain things that you do for accessibility. When it's a venue, like I feel like there's, more responsibility in terms of like making sure that your venue is AD accessible, that we have different hearing devices, that we are investing in ways that make it so that people that have, hearing impairments, vision impairments can come and watch movies with their families. And I think that, those are the ways that we're evolving, learning, and, that you always need to continuously learn and evolve because the world's evolving with you.
And even 5 or 6 years out of the pandemic, I got hired year round right before the pandemic started. When we took over the theater, I became on as a part-time manager. I happened to be the person sitting in the office at the end of the night at the Oriental, writing the email, okay, everybody, this is it. This is the last night.
The night we closed down.
This is the night we were the first theater to close and the last to reopen. And I think we're even 5 or 6 years out are still too close to really see the impact on everybody to imagine, is the theater ever going to reopen? The idea that in that email I said, stay safe, everybody. Maybe I'll see you in a week or two. 18 months later, the idea that almost all of us came back, were able to come back, had the privilege of coming back to doing this thing that we love. But I don't think we're past it yet. I still think this is all kind of up in the air. And like I said, it's a big leap of faith, and is a big leap of faith for the people who want to create these venues, who still want to do micro cinemas and little venues and art galleries and local cinemas and take care of these spaces and be stewards of these spaces. It's still very much a giant experiment and trying to figure it out on a day-to-day basis, how to be more cost effective, how to be more engaging with the people who live really close to you and who live, globally. You have to, on every level, we have to be involved in this thing from top to bottom now. And, it's just, it's a work in progress. And it's something, like we said, we wake up every single day, look at our schedule, whether it's during the festival or during the regular run of all the things we do at rentals and events and book signings and premieres and all these kind of things. We wake up and we give it our best shot, and we only are, through the strength of this community and this company, we really try to make the best of it.
And I think like another thing that we try to always ask ourselves, and we had to really sort of dig into this post-festival, is like, not post-festival, post-pandemic, is like, trying to figure out who your audience is. Because, like when you went through a world experience where people were watching things at home, you knew not everyone was going to come back. You knew that some people were not going to want that communal experience again. But then there's a whole new generation that does. And so like it's been really kind of interesting to like when you felt like you knew your audience, and then you see a film like Weapons blow up in a really big way and be like, okay, like that audience is really geared for this. And so like it's been sort of really cool to sort of see those unexpected moments where something, like films that you knew were going to do well, but then they really took off and like really gained buzz. And it just like sort of shows you that, like you were saying, like younger generations are coming out for that communal experience more. And so like with each theater being like, okay, who's seeking which film where, and like how can we make those opportunities for them to come out and have that fun with their friends. So I think, and I don't think you can ever assume that you know your audience and they're locked into that, because they're always going to change and they're always going to want new things. And so like I think like with our programming team, there's a real nimbleness to want to play and want to plug things in, and like for them find what they think is cool and interesting and try to like plug things in and see if they can find that audience for that film. So that's part of independent film and finding things. When we were working in here and we were like covered in dirt and like like dust and stuff and cleaning things out, someone came in and they said that they had heard a rumor that this place was going to turn into a rock climbing gym, and they were really disappointed that it wasn't. Like the other one that really made me laugh was I think your mom was the one that found it, but someone had taken a photo of the downer and put like a Spirit Halloween on the marquee.
Yeah, Spirit Halloween.
It was funny, like because like that's what you think any empty place is going to turn into, right. And this would make a really banging Spirit Halloween. But at the same time, like, like that also, like, it was able to be funny to us because, like, we knew that we would never let that happen.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Just sort of seeing where people had out their ideas as far as what this place could be. And then those that were like, no, that's not even the realm of happening. Like, this is going to be a movie theater now and forever.
That's right.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it's funny having the mixture of that. Well, and that's the thing. Like one of the cool things with this neighborhood is like everyone walks their dog, and so like some people would just like come here just walking past, and like just the number of people that were like, I'm just so glad you're here. I've been coming here. I'm going to come here more often now that I know that this needs, bodies and seats. Even if you're someone that doesn't go to the movies all the time, this place can mean something to you. This place can mean something to your childhood. And it's a piece of history, and it's a piece of Milwaukee history, and like it is in a really big part of the East Side. Whether you're someone that goes to movies once in a while or all the time, I think that's important to people, that this landmark that is like very important to Milwaukee can stay here and continue to be what it is.
And that people turn to us. People turn to Milwaukee Film with their question of like, oh, what are you guys doing? What's happening? What are you going to do? Whereas we didn't own, operate, rent. We hadn't done the festival. We hadn't used the Downer even as a festival venue for many years. Mm-hmm. But we were still the first place that people thought of when they thought of what's going to happen to the Downer. What are you doing with the Downer? When are you going to buy the Downer? When are you going to rent the Downer? And because of the experience that they had at the Oriental. So on one hand, that was cool that, that we were the first thing that popped into people's heads. And our interim CEO, mm-hmm. Ann Reed, we were really lucky to have, because she lives in this neighborhood for many decades, and said, what's going on with the Downer? Came to us. Donors come to us and say, what's going on? And they know that they can trust us with their time as volunteers, their energy, especially with their donations and their money, that we're going to do the right thing with it, and that we're going to do something that's hopefully valuable for everybody with those resources.
I think when you watch something alone, it's hard for it to have your full attention. Like if you watch something at home on your couch and you have like your kitchen right there, your bathroom right there, you're so much more likely to pull out your phone to get up. You're so much more likely to let yourself be distracted. Whereas like when you're in a room and you're sitting down, having other bodies in the room pull you into the experience more. Plus you're hearing their reactions more. I think it grounds you in the moment, and it makes you be more present when it's so easy in this world to be pulled in so many different directions.
Yeah, it's the focus, it's the spell of it, it's the alchemy of it, it's it's communion, it's communal, it's a religious experience. I think it's the experience that people had sitting around a fire. I think it's the experience that people had in theaters and storytelling, just taken to that next level, where the connection that you have with the story is amplified. Mm-hmm. With the people that you're sharing it with. You're sharing that experience. And I can think of many films that I've seen went in, whether it was opening weekend, so it was packed, or whether it was something that was 30 or 40 years old, but everybody was there screaming and yelling and crying and coming out into the lobby and hugging and talking and it's something you can't get. I don't want to disparage all the wonderful movies I've watched at my house or going into a movie theater alone, but it's hopefully an experience that doesn't go away, because I think it's the intention of the art form. Mm-hmm. is filmmakers are making it for an in-person audience to experience in that way, and it elevates what's happening for everybody. We're part of something bigger. We're part of something that we come from a group of people who have worked internationally at different theaters, at different festivals, at different venues, and we are really on the map, and we're in that conversation of places where you can go and watch 18 episodes of Twin Peaks season 3 all over the course of 3 or 4 days, a place where you can go and see silent films, a place where you can go and see the very, very earliest things that were ever produced in cinema, to where you can know that you can go and see the most brand new, most highly anticipated films on 70 millimeter or 35 millimeter. We're really giving you this broad spectrum, and we have the capabilities and we have the people. It all comes down to the people who are here and who are giving their careers and their time and their energy to this city and to this neighborhood and to these venues. And I just think we're part of this. I think there's a line being drawn in the sand, especially with some of the streaming services and some of the that things are happening at a corporate level that seem to be narrowing the choices and narrowing the way that people can consume this media, and really trying to control what people watch and how they watch it. And there's a generation, younger and older, that are pushing back against that. And I think we are part of that. We're pushing back against those forces. And we're saying that this art form and this way of experiencing this art form has a value that we are not willing to let go of. And we're really dedicated to making sure that it endures for decades to come.
And we recognize that when people come and see movies in our theaters, like, that is a choice. Like, they could choose to wait for something to come out on Netflix, wait for something to be available for them to stream, be able to watch it from their couch with their microwave popcorn. And that it is, it takes more effort to go out to the movie theater. It costs more. Like, you have to park or take the bus, get your concessions, find a seat. And so we try to remind ourselves that people, this is a choice. And one, we try to find, films that they want to see, films that they'll be excited for, films that we think are important that they might not have heard of otherwise. So you both want to find the content that they want to come out and see that they can be excited for, but then we try to make the experience something that they want to be part of. Like, we think about it a lot with concessions. Like, we have a lot of concessions that are, locally sourced. We really try to have the best popcorn, which you have put a lot of energy into. We want it to be when you come, how does it feel worth it? It's like going to a concert. Like, how does it feel that you had that experience that was worth leaving your house? We are constantly trying to craft that experience and make it so that it's memorable, and making it so that people want to come and have it with other people. Like, your seat is here in the front, mine's in the back. I want people to have their favorite spots. I want it to be their experience and why it's special to them, because they'll probably be part of why we got to do all this work in the first place, and they'll be part of why we get to do this work 20 years down the line. I want people to come in and be like, this is my movie theater. This is where I see my movies.
Yeah, I can't be that. It's yours. You belong here. You're welcome here. You're safe here. You can come back here. Yeah. You can count on us. You can trust us. You can trust the experience that you have in these spaces.
And you get to see a Hollywood legend walk in and be like, this is a gorgeous palace. And the Downer has so much of that magic too. These are really beautiful spaces that you get to have really magic moments in. You think of buildings in town like the Grain Exchange and others that, Milwaukee has some incredible architecture, and these theaters are part of that. That's so unique to Milwaukee, and what makes the city so cool. Yeah. And the fact that that we have two downtown movie theaters that have that vibe, I think are really unique.
Absolutely. And Milwaukee is a city, I think that that these two theaters, restored or not, ask a lot of questions, and that questions that need to be asked in Milwaukee. The Oriental is 53212. This is 53211. We have had big conversations and films that are, what's it like to live in different areas in Milwaukee? What's it like to live in 53206? What are the different worlds and different cities within Milwaukee? How is this 2-block stretch an example of what should be? Why doesn't this 2-block stretch exist in other neighborhoods more often? Why is it such a unicorn? Why is it such a unique thing? Why are we trying so hard and working so hard to hold on to it and to make sure that as many local businesses as possible are in these storefronts in this 2-block stretch? And why have other people in Milwaukee had that opportunity taken away from them? Why are we so privileged to have a shot at being stewards of it? And how can we have a conversation around that really benefits everybody in Milwaukee?
I think one thing that has been really inspirational recently is if you look at when there were cuts made federally to national broadcasting and how that impacted local radio stations such as Radio Milwaukee, they were really open about that loss of funding to their member base, to the general public, to those that listen to them. And I think the city really rallied and really, stepped up and supported them. And I thought that was a really beautiful moment. And I think if arts are important for you and you want your city to continuously have beautiful murals, beautiful things in it, cool things going on, it is paramount that people support, because, you can't always imagine that, there are infinite funds out there for these nonprofits to exist. And the way that you can support that is through membership, and it's also through, with us buying a single ticket and showing up, or telling a friend about a movie that you saw here. It's finding like little ways that, you can support and spread the mission of each of these arts organizations. And, we've seen that in this city, and I hope other cities have that as well, because I feel like there's a real privilege and benefit to that. Whenever we show movies here and I see people bring in their kids, I'm constantly reminded of, my experiences with my parents growing up, and like things that I will hold on to forever. Like, I'll always remember where I saw certain things, whereas like if I saw something on my couch, I can't say, oh, that is the same experience. But like those are like the moments where you see real, like, I don't know, like everyone coming out, people sharing really special things, and just like the fact that like you will always remember the communal experiences of your life, because that's where you feel the most connected to humanity. If you are experiencing something alone in your room and you've created a vacuum of isolation, there's some good that can come of that, but not in the same way that you feel when you go to a concert, like when you go to Summerfest. And like when you see something in the Oriental Main House, or this, like the filmmaker was present, like you will remember that, and that will stay with you. And I think like we live to like create those lasting human experiences, and I think that is why film in theaters will always be important.
I know that people from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, different cultures, different languages, different countries, different religions, they all feel it, and they can feel it together given the right opportunity, and it's something really special. But once you feel it, the way that I felt it at the Oriental when I was 3 or 4 years old, the way that I'm lucky to bring our children and the children of people that I love to experience it, the way that I get to bring my mom and my relatives who are older than me, the generation that's brought me here, it's something very, very special and very powerful.